Hi, my name is Willie Cook, and today I'm going to talk about upgrading garden tractor spindles. These spindles didn't have grease fittings on them, and I want to put grease fittings on them. Not very difficult, especially when you're working with aluminum. Just gotta take it apart. So what I did is I stuck the whole spindle in a vise over here. Stuck in a vise and undid the nut. Just needed one wrench to do that. Now, depending on your spindle, you might need a second nut for the bottom half. This one's welded, so just have to stick it in the vise to hold it in place. And make sure when you're taking everything apart, you keep it all in order, because this was the nut in the top washer, the top pulley, the bushing between the pulleys, the second pulley, and the washer for the bottom of that pulley, and then the bearing, the spacer, the bearing. Try to keep everything in order if you can. And make sure you mark a top and bottom if you're worried about keeping track of that. Now, first thing we gotta do is we have to pop half of these seals out so the grease from the inside here can work their way to the bearings. To do that, you need a punch to punch them out. So what I did is I set that on the vise, and you might have to move a spacer around and pop it out both ways. There's lips that hold the bearings in place on the top and bottom, so you'll need a hammer and a punch to pop those out. So that's the hammer right there. So once you get those out, you're going to need to take these seals here and pop them out. And I'll give me a second to get the camera set up, and I'll show you what I did to get those out. Hang on. I found a screwdriver that fit in these really nice and tight. You pry it from the outside. You can usually pry the seals out pretty easy. And they'll come out. Working on it. It sucked back in on me. There it is. Now, there's plastic more or less on the outside lip. Now, if you wanted to, you could pop these seals out and put new grease in here. Make sure there is grease in them. You can always pop these seals right back in if you wanted. See, they go right back in. So it's not hard to pop these out. You do that for both bearings. So you take those seals out for both bearings, and these will be opposite of each other, so there's a seal on the bottom and a seal on the top. And make sure you press them into the arbor shaft correctly. Okay. Now another thing we gotta do is we gotta find some grease fittings. Now, I have a whole bin of grease fittings in here, but I don't necessarily have a whole lot of taps. So what I do is I go through my nuts and I find a nut that fits the thread of a grease fitting, in which case these two were metric. I don't have any metric taps that size, so I had to get an American one, so I had to swap to these. Found like an American nut that would fit that. Once I found an American nut that would fit the threads, I would stick that on the, I would find the right tap for that. You know, I gotta get a camera holder one of these days. So you find a tap that fits that, and you find the appropriate hole for the tip size to start the threads, and you drill your hole. You drill your hole where you can get at it. Now, this is the bottom, and that's the top. So you want to make sure, because this is going to be sitting on top of the deck, you want to leave enough room for you to get a grease hose onto that underneath the deck, but you still want to be able to clear the blade. Now, there's a shim on this that you have to worry about clearing as well, so you want to make sure you don't have any kind of interference once you're in there. So once you know what type of thread you need, I only threaded it part of the way. It's kind of hard to see with the camera, but I only threaded it down just a little tiny ways. That way this will eat into the aluminum a little bit and stay stuck. Okay, so let me get all this back together and I'll show you the finished product. So hang on. Now on this spindle, I was able to just tap them together with a hammer. Make sure you don't forget your bushings in there. You don't want to be forgetting those bushings. If you bolt it together, you'll basically cook the bearings. Now, as you can see, that one sticks out. The bushing actually fills up quite a bit of space in there. So make sure the bearing on top is flush. Doesn't matter, the one on the bottom sticks out a hair. If you want to, you could put that one up flush and have the top stick out. Doesn't matter. So I'm going to start putting this together quick because it's pretty simple. I already have everything lined up here. Wait a minute. Oh, you know what? I grabbed the wrong spacer, didn't I? See? You gotta keep everything in order. That was a boo-boo. Wrong spacer. Haha. I gotta fix that. See? You get distracted and you can make mistakes. Hang on. Now it's sitting flush. Whoopsie. Never said it was perfect, did I? Start putting these back on where they're supposed to go. Like I said, it doesn't hurt to mark the tops as you take everything apart. Be a little more careful this time as I'm putting it together. See, that's the spacer I mixed up. It's supposed to go there. This has a empty cavity underneath it that lines up over that pulley there. You put that on up. If you put this on upside down, it won't be tight. It'll just be loose. So you gotta pay a little more attention than what I just did earlier. Now, as for tightening this down, I suggest putting it on tight. You'll know if it's too tight when it snaps, but yeah, you don't want this coming loose, because if this comes loose, things are going to fail. Now that's together, I can put the grease fitting in. I did not grab a wrench yet for that. As you can see, it's not... let me get a better angle on that. Not threaded in all the way, and it's tight, because I didn't put threads all the way through it, because I want it to be snug so it won't rattle out. I also want it to be more or less to the side when I stick it onto the deck. When you stick this in the deck, you want this pacing pointing with the flow of the grass, because if it's say a left-hand discharge, you want the grease fitting facing to the left. Otherwise, it's just going to get packed with grease, and you have to, or grass. It'll get packed with grass, and you have to peel that off every time you want to grease it. So you want to point it the same direction as the discharge chute. So that'll make things easier as for greasing that up. I also have another spindle to do after this one for a friend, because I have one spindle making noise and I had another friend that broke his spindle altogether. So that is going to be a grease fitting upgrade. And one of the reasons why I want to put a grease fitting on here is, as I was saying, I got a little bit interrupted. I'm adding a grease fitting on here to avoid corrosion in here. Keep the bearings lubricated over time, because I run the heck out of my deck. Now, for the average person that's only running their tractor maybe 50 or 100 hours a year, you probably don't need grease fittings, because the sealed bearing will last quite a long time without any problems. It's just a matter of... I like to take better care of my stuff, and I usually use it quite a bit. I put like 250 hours on my tractor a year. So that's why I'm putting a grease fitting on here, is to help keep things from rusting and keep things from drying out. Because my other spindle was only on there for 4 years. Like I said, that was, what, 500 hours? And it's given up. So if I have a grease fitting on here, it'll last longer. So if you like the video, make sure you give me a thumbs up. And have a good day. Bye.